The day is in the midst of a year-long look at affordable housing in the region. What specifically do you think the legislature should do to help people who can't afford to buy a home or are struggling to rent an apartment?
So I think with the affordable housing issue, I think a lot of it should be based on local control. I do believe in affordable housing. I think it's necessary, and I think there's a place for it. But I'm concerned about the state trying to take over local zoning and forcing towns to cooperate with developments that they may not support, that the folks in that town who've purchased homes, who pay property taxes, may not support. I think there should be more of a working relationship between the state, between the towns, between the organizations that advocate for affordable housing to come up with a better solution, one that rewards towns perhaps as opposed to penalizing towns. I know there have been bills proposed by Democrats that would actually add property tax burdens to towns that don't meet the affordable housing threshold, which is absurd. I think more housing should be considered into the calculation, such as senior housing and perhaps mobile home areas, things like that really are affordable. But overall, I would like to see more cooperation with the towns to try to come up with a solution that benefits everybody. We do need affordable housing. We also need local control of zoning, though. So that's where I stand on the issue.
Connecticut recently enacted a law designed to provide safeguards against lawsuits for out-of-state patients seeking abortions in Connecticut and any provider who helps them. Do you support efforts to make Connecticut such a safe haven?
Yes, I mean, right now, Connecticut really is a safe haven. If someone comes to Connecticut to get an abortion, it's legal in Connecticut, which I support. I am pro-choice. It is legal in Connecticut. So someone who comes to Connecticut and receives one and goes back to Texas, for example, they cannot be sued for getting an abortion in a legal state. And a doctor cannot be sued for getting for providing one in a state where it's legal. So I know there was that legislation that enacted that, but that's already the case. I do believe in a woman's right to choose, and within that legislation as well, though, I believe we actually made abortion less safe by allowing midwives to perform surgical or aspiration abortions. I think that every woman, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of location, regardless of income, deserves the opportunity to speak with a doctor. That's how it has always been, between a woman and her doctor, not between a woman and her midwife. Doctors get the training that is necessary, and midwives don't. Let's keep it safe in Connecticut. Let's keep it accessible, but let's also keep it safe.
The state's surplus has grown to over $4 billion. Do you support the decision to use some of that to lower the state's pension debt, or do you think more should be returned to the taxpayer?
I believe that we should do everything we can to lower the state's pension debt. I think in the long run, that is the wise economical decision to make. We have future generations that are going to have to shoulder this burden. We're looking at 30 years, potentially more, of paying off this debt, and it would benefit the state, it would benefit state employees, it would benefit the taxpayer to get more of that debt burden gone. I would support doing more to relieve us of pension debt. I actually proposed a bill a couple years ago that would have required new gaming revenue, so gaming from sports betting and online betting, to go towards teachers' pension debt, because that to me is the gorilla in the room, the gorilla in the room that needs to be dealt with. Let's deal with that now, so future generations don't have to shoulder that burden.
How should Connecticut move forward to address climate change with regards to electric vehicles, wind power, and other clean energy strategies?
So I support diversifying our energy supply. I don't support putting all of our eggs in one basket in an unproven model. I was a strong proponent of the Millstone deal. I think nuclear is a virtually carbon-free source that can be that bridge between where we are now and potentially a future where we are relying on renewable energy as a majority of our energy supply. Right now, that's not possible. If we were to go right now straight to solar and wind, we wouldn't be able to power everything. People would have to turn their lights out at night. It would be a nightmare. So we have to be smart about the policy. Diversifying energy. In terms of electric vehicles, I support them, but I don't think taxpayers should be subsidizing electric vehicles. Folks are burned enough. Certainly the folks with the lowest income are not able to afford those, so why should they have to subsidize, some wealthy folks who are going to go buy a $50,000 electric vehicle? We also have to look at how we're going to power all these electric vehicles. And that's something I don't think that the legislature is taking a hard enough look at. I don't think we should be following California laws. I think that was a huge mistake because we're a small state. We're on the eastern side of the nation. They're on the west. They're an enormous state. They have wildfires. They have much different issues than we do. So I think we should be following either our own laws or the EPA. But we have to be smart about it. Putting all of our eggs in the renewable energy basket right now will not reach the solution that people think it will. And we also have to come up with a way to figure out how to recycle solar panels, wind panels, and things like that, and how to get a cleaner source for lithium-ion batteries. I mean, right now, maybe people don't realize it, we are relying on nations like the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a very corrupt dictatorship. Warlords are forcing children and slaves to mine for cobalt, because there's such a high supply there, to go into wealthy people's vehicles. That's something we need to take a real hard look at and figure out whether that's actually moral or not. I don't think it is. Let's work to get out of that situation and go towards the future in a more moral, diverse fashion.
Do you think the 2020 election was conducted fairly and Joe Biden won? And do you support early voting and voting by mail initiatives?
I do believe that Joe Biden did win the election. There may have been some potential irregularities. I'm not sure, but certainly not enough to change the election. In the past, I have supported early voting initiatives. I would like to see how it's going to be conducted. I'm not a fan of having it too early because I don't think that there's a lot of information that can come out in an election that last 2 weeks, that last week. So I'd like to see how it's actually going to be run. But I did vote for it in the past. And I know my opponent is going to say I missed the vote last year. I had COVID. Couldn't make every vote. I've almost had a perfect voting record, and I would have voted for it. So any attacks on me with that are absolutely disingenuous. In terms of voting by mail, again, it has to be safe. I don't want to go to ballot harvesting like California where anybody can pick up somebody's ballot, look at it, and maybe trash it if they don't like the person that person is voting for, or put it in the mailbox. I also think we need to put, in terms of voting by mail, it's got to get in by a certain date. I'm not a fan of waiting 2 weeks for election results because people put their ballots in the mail on election day. Right now we essentially have voting by mail with our absentee ballot system, and I did support no excuse absentee ballots, but I want to see it safe, I want to see it secure, I want to see signature verification, and if possible, voter ID as well.
Several beach areas in Old Lyme are under consent orders to address pollution issues stemming from septic systems. Do you believe putting sewers in Miami Beach, Old Colony, Old Lyme Shores, and Soundview is the answer to the problem? And how will you work to secure funding to make the project financially viable for the residents that will bear the cost?
I think that it should be left up to the beach associations. If there's a beach association that wants it, then the beach association can compile the money, apply for grants, and I would do everything I could to secure state funding to assist them in that process. I know there have been some questions, and they're gone unanswered by DEEP, regarding the actual pollution in the area. These beach homes, particularly in areas like Soundview, these are not mansions. A lot of them are beach cottages. And to be perfectly frank, a lot of the folks there cannot afford the cost burden that putting in a sewer system would entail. I would like to see potentially, where possible, better septic systems, potentially community septic. There is a large plot of land where Cherry Stones is. Could we put a community septic system there? Those are some things I'd like to investigate, whether that's less expensive. but it really comes down to beach association sovereignty. I don't like forced decrees. And I just cannot fathom seeing middle class people having to pay that burden to keep a summer home or potentially their own home, and they're going to have to put it on the market as a result. Let's find a solution for those who don't, for those associations that don't want sewer. Let's find a solution for them that works. And move forward that way. But in any way I can, I would be supportive of them. I've been in contact with the beach associations my whole legislative career, and I would continue that good rapport with them going forward.